There we go. We're going to have a discussion today about Glastonbury and about the Cheddar Gorge and about what the fuck actually happened when we were there in January. Because crazy, crazy shit. Some of you have seen the video, and I'm going to put the video in here. Like, see, enter video now. Click. Can you see it? Okay, so this is me standing. This is after I'd been standing outside the car at Cheddar Gorge for a few minutes. I had finally decided I would let go of the car. You're kind of going, okay, just.
The tree growing sideways.
Can you walk?
I don't know if I can even walk right now. Like, literally, there's an energy. Like, it's in my ears. Like, my ears are doing this. Wow. Oh. I can do this. I can do this. The energy was crazy. The energy the entire time I was in the UK with Anne and Gail was crazy. We went to Cheddar Gorge, and what we experienced was, as I've talked about on the show, crazy insane. Something I've never ever experienced before. As like, it wasn't just having a little bit of a woozy. It wasn't like having a little bit of vertigo. It was literally like there was forces pushing us in a direction, and I keep likening it to be like gravitational waves, if you could imagine. They talk.
Do you know what direction that was?
It was towards Cheddar, wasn't it, Danny? It was like down the hill. Did you feel that?
Yes. It was towards Cheddar. You're right. So I suppose we could pull up a map and figure out exactly what direction that was facing, but it was like literally.
I'm just trying to.
You
Get a map with ley lines on it.
Yeah,
we were
I tried
facing
that.
north.
I've been looking for maps with ley lines on them, and they're all like JPEGs, so you can't zoom in properly. Because I wanted to find one that was like an interactive, where you could zoom right into points. So if anyone has one or finds one, I want a fucking link to it. That was the biggest problem I had, and I found an interesting website. And I posted it in the chat with Anne and Gail. I'll have to go back and find it again. That has all the listings of like Neolithic, Paleolithic, ancient ruins, everything. And it was all spread out on a map, and you could click every little icon and you could see what there was. It was the different barrows. There were stone circles, and then they separate them from ancient stone circles to all the modern, because of course there's been a shit ton of modern stone circles made. But they're all listed on the map, and it was very interesting because you get this cluster right there, like all in that Glastonbury, Mendips, that whole area. There was just a huge cluster of stuff. So I was in there, I must have spent an hour and a half just clicking on each one, and the ones that really kind of stood out to me going, oh, okay, and then actually going into a link and trying to find out more information. The more we look at Glastonbury, above and beyond the mainstream history that they try to tell us played out there, there's so many stories. There are so many pieces of history that aren't noted in the history books, as in really old pieces. And Amina, you put a whole pile of stuff, because we were talking about, of course, there's the rumor that Joseph of Arimathea came to England. He brought the holy thorn bush. He was purportedly the founding father of Glastonbury, the first Christian settlement, so to speak, etc. And the fact that those missing years of Jesus, where Jesus just fucking disappears until he's like 30 years old, that he was in England.
Yeah, and there's evidence of Hebrews in that part of the world. There's evidence that Joseph of Arimathea was owner of a tin mine in Cornwall, that he was given land in Glastonbury, that he knew the people well, they knew him way before probably Jesus was born.
Yeah.
It's just that he developed this infrastructure of business. And the Phoenicians are the ones they're the ship people in the Mediterranean who landed there, and all this trade and commerce. And the Phoenicians are the ones that have like, they got the Babylonian religion. So they worship Moloch and Baal. And then the mixture of that with the Hebrew knowledge was Druidism.
Well, and this is the whole thing. There's so many pieces. And it's so difficult, number one, nowadays to find. So, for example, the information you put, there was that article you sent, and there's quotes in the article saying, well, such and such in year 760 wrote this. Such and such from so-and-so in 985 wrote this. So
and the
these
land
documents have to be known somewhere.
The abbot kept for the land taxes. So when they were looking at who's paid taxes, Joseph of Arimathea was given land from the king, which was tax-free forever and ever. So all those centuries had gone by and there was no tax paid on that land.
And that's in the tax records of the time.
Yeah.
But again, where do we get our hands on these documents, right? And why are this, and we know history is manipulated. We know history is just ridiculously manipulated. Hell, they manipulate it now every 10 years. It's history books 10 years ago now are changed from ones that are written today. The search for the information is extremely difficult, but it also means that we can't discount anything.
Sure. It's been interesting to me to listen to your various theories, because I have read, Michael Sarian and people like that. None of the information that I get actually sticks with me. And it just could be that I'm, it's not part of what I need to know. But I also feel that part of what we were doing going to Glastonbury was going back through the layers of applied story, if you like, his story, to pre-virus. Because I actually don't believe or trust any of the stories. I've heard so many different accounts of who came from where, and everything originated in Ireland, if you believe Sarian, and went out from there and came back. And the Tuatha De Danann were pre-virus, and blah blah blah. So it's really interesting to listen to these stories, but I'm probably just going to be listening to most of it because I actually don't know any of this myself. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think any of us know.
And it's like it doesn't go, yes, I know that.
Well,
and I'm the same. It's just I'm very drawn to it, and being here makes a massive difference. So as we're talking and I'm pinging, I can actually go and research stuff locally for you guys. So
yes,
I'm with
exactly.
It's like I haven't got too much to contribute.
Well, we're so far away that if I get to England, I head over that way because it's a need that has been driven by the lack of being able to go. And so when I do get to go, I'm there. I have to be there. I have to go, and I have to find more, and I have to research other, further.
That's interesting. Amina, why is that? Why do you feel that draw to go there?
Okay, so when I was in school, I was in school in London, and our first major trip, which was a week long, which every year group in that school goes on. If every kid in that borough has to go to this place in Gower, in Wales.
Okay.
And So we all go to this old house with secret passages, and we stay there, and we go on geography trips. So we go see the landscape, and we do all the geography stuff there. And suddenly I'm taken, as soon as I pass Kidwelly Castle towards Gower, suddenly I'm taken by a very deep feeling, and I'm only 10 years old. So I make a note of that, because all my friends want to talk about nonsense. And I make a note of that, note to self, right? That I like this place and I want to come back and, you know, head back to London. And it doesn't leave me. So if something is on a whim, I know it will disappear and it will dissipate and I won't feel it again.
Yeah.
But if I'm sitting in London and I'm constantly thinking about Wales, I'm wondering, why am I doing that? Eventually I have to go back. So in high school, there was another option to go on a horse riding trip for 2 weeks in Wales and the Brecon Beacons, and I jumped on that. I was like, I'm going. So in the school holidays, a group of us with some teachers went to the Brecon Beacons, and I was like, I really want to learn Welsh. So I was telling the people there that were looking after the horses, I want to learn Welsh. So they started teaching me a few phrases, like bore da and things, you know, just to get familiar. And they like it when someone from an outsider wants to learn Welsh, right? So I was like, yes. And then I have to come back. And then later, years later, so my mum used to take me on walking trips in school holidays. And we used to go on the National Trust walking paths, north and south. But every time we got to South England and Southwest England, I'm suddenly like in that zone again where I'm like, I need to know why I like this place so much. And my friends used to comment, and until I was like, tried to take it out of myself, that ever since I was little, those who knew me when I was little through school, that I would suddenly fall into a Somerset accent by mistake. And I never even lived there. And I would go fall into like this country Somerset accent, and I'd be like talking, they'd be like, yeah, right. So what do you do with your tractor then? Oh yeah. And I'd be like, am I talking like that again? And they'd be like, yeah, you were.
Oh, God.
You know? And so I'm like, okay, what is this? And then so I always visit. And then I got into Sufism, and so this Sufi group was very, very international, and the teacher would be living in Cyprus, but he'd always visit England once a year, and he was full of like random. He was like a spring of random things that he'd suddenly say, and everyone would be like, "What was that?" And then and you know, and he wouldn't say anymore, and so he would leave these droppings like a little trail. And one day he said to the group that he wanted to go west. So a group of us just jumped in cars and followed his car when he was being driven, and he was directing from his, you know, front seat. And he was like, I'm going there, keep going. So we end up in Stonehenge. And in Stonehenge, he points at the you know, the stone that's there's two and there's one crossing, and he said, the direction, the right direction. So we're like, what direction? We're getting compasses out, and then he gets in the car and he drives further on, and he gets to Glastonbury, and he wants to get out in Glastonbury, and so like he wanted to meet the people, so there was this big event. And everybody came, and we did whirling dervishes, and random people came with drums and music and started playing, and people got up and danced, and then we did like Sufi chanting and stuff. And then he said, this place is the main center of spirituality. London is the seat of the devil, and this place is spiritual. And then if you see the people, see their hearts are open, see how they're light, they're very light. And then get in the car again, and he starts heading off into Wales. I'm like, yes, Wales as well. And we went to Glastonbury Wells, and he started talking about the dragon and the green man, and we go to the so I had to go back, because when we went to the Abbey, so this bunch of Sufis, about 80 or so Sufis are all parking their cars outside the abbey and all walking in following this old man with a long beard and a stick and wearing a robe, and we're like, haha, we're with him. He just decides to look at the building and nod his head and went, eh. And then he said that there's no Trinity here. So there's no Trinity of Christianity in this building, in the architecture. And so we looked around, and sure enough, not even a pillar was shaped in a form of three. There was nothing symbolizing three. And then he said, I want to pray here. So this woman comes running out of the abbey saying, oh, no, you can't do that. And he'd already started. And he'd laid down a prayer mat facing the main structure of a wall where there's an arch. And without looking at a compass, he just started praying towards, Mecca, which is also towards Jerusalem. So Jerusalem used to be where Muslims prayed towards before
Mecca.
Right. So he was praying in that direction, and then, we just followed. And this woman was huffing and puffing, going, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, sorry. And we just ignored her and carried on. And then these white doves started landing on the wall where the arch is. And these white doves, so as we were looking up, everyone was nudging each other, look at that. And we counted, and there was 21 white doves. And he went, and he said, this place is going to be rebuilt in the end times when Jesus comes back, and he's going to come back here. And this building is the most of all the churches in England. This one is the one that has the most power. And he says every single stone that has fallen on the ground will be put back in those times. And we said, who's going to rebuild it? And he says, the genie will. And they will be the ones who will sew clothes, and the clothes that they will make will be like medieval clothes. Sorry. Okay, so
just
then
tail crashing shit.
So then he goes off, right? And he continues heading west, and he ends up going across over to Wales. And I'm really happy. By this point, I really, really want to start researching, the abbey and everything. So I realized that it's built in the year 67, before the Romans had reached that part of England. So it's pre-Roman Christianity. And then, and on that piece of land, he walked over to where the old bakery is, near the abbey. And there were too many of us in a crowd, so we decided that we'd wait outside while he did the little tour of the bakery. And then he came out, I was like, and he pointed his stick to a place in the ground. And then he's like, and he started reciting prayers. And then he was very respectful of that place. So we were like, okay. And then it was like, what is that? And then it's just a patch of grass. And we were like, and he was looking at it, and he was communicating with this patch of grass. So we were like, what is this? And someone was like, ask him what he's doing. And then he says, later, he'll tell later. And that night, when he got to Wales, he went to St. Donat's. And they had allowed the group to use a room to do the Sufi chanting in. And so they did that, and all the lights went off. And he says, King Arthur is here. And so we're like, what? So he has returned in spirit to that place. So we're like, why King Arthur? Where's Merlin? And then he said, no Merlin, just Arthur. He's sleeping underneath in the cave. So I'm like, okay, I must find out more. And then he said quietly to a smaller group that night, that was Mary's grave, Mary, Mother of Jesus. So I'm like, how on earth? This is 1992, 93. And I'm like, how on earth are all these things put together? And how is it does it make sense or not? It was just my mind was fucked. Because that doesn't make sense. How is it that, what? And then he was saying, oh, Jesus was all over England all the time. He was constantly going, oh, what? So I started researching, and I kept going back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, like, this is now like 2016, where I've done a lot of research and I need to go visit the places again. And it was talking about the red and the white, and the red dragon and the white dragon and the green man. And it was all little bits of information, and then here, and he'd go. We were like, what? So I've got a memory that's like, I remember him saying that, I remember him saying that, I remember him saying that, I remember him saying that. Now I'm going to go and research it all. So I went in and did the research from 92 until now, with lots of trips going back. And I live in Malaysia. I'm not even near there. You know, but the funny thing is I keep bumping into people in Malaysia who have an affinity with that place. Wow. And when I look at who they are, they all come from the same tribe of Malays, which is, not all Malays are the same. They're all from different parts of the Nusantara lands. You know, some are from the east, some are from the west, some are from Sumatra, some are Javanese, some are... They're not all from the same place, but every single person that has an affinity with either Wales or Glastonbury, and there aren't many, but they're all from like the lands near Brunei, and the ancestry of Brunei all goes back to the same roots as well. And I'm like, what is this? So why am I the one like who's totally obsessed with this? Why am I obsessed with all of this? And it turns out like that there are links in my own family to both the East and the West, because I'm half English, and my other side has links through East Africa, Middle East, and Malaysia. And I'm like, oh my God, this all comes very, very like far and wide, with bits of information, a little nugget one year, another nugget another year, you know, until like now I'm like, how many years later, decades later, and I'm still investigating. And I still feel it pings. And like I was studying the red and the white and the waters and what it means. And so this teacher had said, you have to drink the water. You must drink them both together. It's like you don't eat an egg without the yolk. You know, you eat them both together, because one cancels out the other. So if there's something bad in egg yolk and there's something bad in egg white, you must eat them together. They cancel each other out. And so these two waters, you don't drink just from one, you drink from both. And then you see, you know, later as you do it over and over and over again, you see what happens. So I always made sure I drank from these two waters and drank together, but I didn't understand how to do it until I learned that, okay, so Glastonbury was islands. Yes. So you got glass, the glass isle is Avalon. Yep. And it's surrounded by the water. And the water from both these wells used to pour into the land. And that is the chalice, the sacred chalice, because of the hill is like 7 layers, and there's mercury. So if you look at alchemy, you need the red, the white, the black, and the blue. And so you need an element of iron and lead. You need the white from the philosopher's stone, and you need the mercury of the blue mercury. And it goes through 7 stages before lead turns to gold. Okay, so what happens when you mix these two waters is that they work together and they start healing. But it's not just an alchemical healing, it's a full-on transformation, a full-on alchemical transformation inside you. And there's 7 stages of it. And I wasn't realizing that I was going through these stages until somebody who just popped up in the Chalice Gardens told me that you have to sit at this place here, and there's just one little bench in the corner that has this mercurial energy that comes down from the sky. It's blue light, that comes in at certain, like maybe it's dawn or dusk, that comes down, and that's the only place where you drink it that it will work. So although I drank
Where is
it
this
over the years,
bench?
Well, I was just gonna say, where's this bench?
in the
Chalice
Chalice
Wells
Garden.
Garden.
So you know where the well opening is? So you know the well
Yeah.
has that Vesica Pisces symbol on it with the sword of Saint Michael, and that the hill is actually the conjoining part of the Vesica Pisces, that shape, which you said is like and you said it's like the vulva, right? So red and white is symbolic of like blood and semen, king, queen, sun and moon, and they're and male and female, right? So king and queen. So it's a sort of place where this is the exact spot where apparently King Arthur and Guinevere used to bathe together. And so there's this lion's mouth, and from outpouring that, there's a pool, which is a bath, where you sit inside. So nobody sits inside it now, but there is a bench right next to that pool, bath-shaped pool, and you sit on that bench. And there's even something there that says, you know, meditate here, silence please, this is a quiet garden area. And so you sit there, and that's where you mix the water and you drink it there. So you meditate, or you know, do something quiet and then you drink. And then a couple of months later, I had a Kundalini awakening with that. The electric bolt went through me, and the whole thing like blew up, and I ended up being an incredibly random person after that.
That was your random journey.
Yeah. And it's been random, but I really feel connected. And yeah, just I'm here to share things I've learned and whatever might ping for other people.
But here's the thing, and I don't know about Anne and Gail, but I have been since I was a little girl, and I mean little, enthralled with the King Arthur story. Like completely, and I could even say obsessed. We got a dog when I was in grade 9, and I insisted that he be called Sir Lancelot. My dad was just like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "No, he's going to be Sir Lancelot." We called him Lance for short. Always obsessed. Now, when I was in my teen years, I discovered the book The Mists of Avalon. And it literally changed my life. Like, I was ready to go get the little blue tattoo of the crescent moon between I was full on. And I read all of the classic King Arthur stuff. Like, I went back and read Le Morte d'Arthur in English translations. And I read 3 different translations of it to make sure that I was getting the whole bits and pieces. And they were empty. It was like, you know, when you read stuff and you're like, but this isn't it. This is like surface fairy tale land stuff. It doesn't actually.
Romances.
Yes, exactly. It was like romanticized. It was like Hollywood production stuff. And I started looking for other things, and I would on and off over the years, since I was like 18, I have done the same thing. Like, I've just been, anything that I came across, it was King Arthur referenced, anything about Avalon, anything, all of this stuff, I have just gobble it up. And I'd never been to Glastonbury. I've been all over England, mostly more the north and London.
Was it your first time this last
That
month?
was my very first time going to Glastonbury, going to Somerset. I've been down to like Dorset multiple times. I've driven by Stonehenge. I've never been to that southwest Somerset area. Never.
We have to try it again.
Oh, but here's the thing though. I fell in love with it. Like, even for all the crazy insanity that went on while we were there, and the whole
It
thing.
sounded like you had a terrible day. You were sick. You felt unwell. You had a headache.
Terrible. But you know what? I loved. Like, I think I said to Gail, when we were driving around, I could have spent all day sitting in the back of the car, just driving around randomly. Wouldn't have even mattered where we were going, just driving around, looking out, feeling it. It felt so good.
It was absorbing it, wasn't it?
It was. And I literally, like I said, Gail could have driven me around in circles for 12 hours and I'd have fucking just sat there and been like, having a good time. I really, really like this. I felt at home. I felt completely comfortable. I felt welcome. I mean, besides the welcome that Gail gave us, obviously. It felt familiar. It felt good, like you're returning to a place, and yet I'd never been there before.
Witchy shops on the high street in Glastonbury.
I didn't like it.
Me neither.
I didn't like it. We walked up the high street in Glastonbury because I was like, oh, I'll go into one of these shops and I'll get myself like a souvenir. Got to have something of a souvenir from Glastonbury, like whether it's a crystal or. And we walked up the street, and I didn't like it. There was not one shop that called to me, and that's how I kind of shop. Yep. Like you walk on until all of a sudden you go, and you just find yourself walking in with no thought process.
10, 15 years, those shops are like that. Before that, it wasn't really so much like that. There's an old silversmith there. He's good. He's only got like a tiny little doorway shop. But this silversmith, he makes like he can make us. He's been there for decades. He can make this any sort of silver ornament. He makes little fairies, things for necklaces. You know, he's been doing that for ages. He's like
I didn't see his shop. No.
And the rest is like super.
We did go past it.
Did we?
But I think you had about that much battery left in your soul by then.
Yeah, that was about it. And I didn't like it. I felt there was a pervasive feeling of fakery. What Anne called the false life. Exactly. This false
namaste.
Yeah.
Yoga pant, hippie wannabe. It left a literal bad taste in my mouth. Like everything about it. I just walked around. I was like, the history is wrong. Nothing about because you stop everyone, you read all these little plaques. We went through the whole thing with the Abbey, and they've got like little display cases with a piece of broken pottery or a piece of fabric, and they're like, oh, well, this is found, blah, 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 blah. I'm like going, Disney. It was like a production. Like, here's our production, here's our level. And I was just like, none of this resonates. None of this feels real set. It feels like a prop.
Danny, one of the interesting things was that I felt compelled to go in the Abbey. There was something there, even though it cost a lot to go in, which was crazy. I felt that we had to go in there and we had to walk around. I've been in Glastonbury twice before, both times, like one time at a conference, another time I was doing a workshop with the Chalice Wells girls. But that was the first time I actually went in or felt, compelled to go into the Abbey. And much as it was dreadful, I felt that there was a reason that we did that.
Because we read about the art being rebuilt, and it was built to look older than what it was, didn't we?
Yeah, deliberately.
The first time in a long time where I've had the what's it called? Psycho. When you touch an object.
Yeah.
Psychokinetic.
The what?
Psychokinetic. Let you feel
They got a really old door in the Abbey. I can't remember what the date was on it. But
really old.
It's what?
Sorry, I'm just being.
You're being facetious.
I am being facetious. Totally being facetious.
But I got such a strong connection from that door that I had to go around the back and just where I was hidden a little bit to carry on connecting with it. And that was the only real thing that I felt in there. And I got where it was. I got that. I've still got a really strong mental image of it now. But everything else felt strange. And I know I had you know, when the girls were in that lower area, which must have been the basement of the building, and they were stood on those pillars.
Yep.
I really wanted to go over there when we were just all milling around, and the girls started walking over, and I was like, yep, going with them. There was that was the only part, apart from the kitchen. Yeah, that was the only part that I got a natural energy connection.
Well, the new abbey is built on top of where the Druid University was, because the old abbey, the ruined one in 67, was built next to it.
That's right. Yeah, there was
a big Druid University. So maybe that door that you touched is so old.
A piece of an original piece.
Yes.
Yeah, because it was in it was a tunnel, but like the tunnels of castle walls where you've got your inner and your outer wall, but you couldn't see. It was a proper archway and stony, muddy floors, and I was stood in there with my back to the door that I had my hand on, and I was watching the rain coming down. But you went out, because people were saying it would went out into a clearing and like a courtyard type building. There was nothing really churchy about it, but it did feel more like school. Is that what you said? A Druid school?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a university that took students from all over the Europe.
Because that's what I was seeing walking past I was seeing the white robes, and I was seeing it was like,
there is a courtyard somewhere. I've not been in the abbey, the actual abbey, but there is apparently there's a courtyard where they would learn to levitate stones through sound. And in the school, so you mentioned the courtyard, that maybe it was built in the same sort of land, or the plan.
Literally only see what was in front of me. I couldn't see because I was stood quite far back into the tunnel. But now you've triggered me with the white. I can see them walking that way with the white robes right down to the bottom. And they weren't old people. It was all very young. When I say young, like teenage type age.
So apparently Jesus studied there when he went there when he was 12, and stayed and only graduated just before he was 30. So this is like a high school age, where in those days, that's already a man. That's manhood, isn't it? 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're already working for the family at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like your first entry into adulthood, where you master the sciences. And they studied the sciences. They studied, natural laws and universal laws and spiritual laws and things like that. But it was famous. It was so famous.
Here's the thing, though. And I literally sat there and looked at this for the last couple of weeks going, is this a Mandela effect? Or is it just a piece that I did not know? That St. Patrick was in Glastonbury. And I'm like...
Well, the Irish St. Patrick.
That bastard went everywhere.
The Irish St. Patrick, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
he was sent along on the matriarchal goddess lines to close down the energy.
To fucking, yeah, he is a disgusting person.
Yeah. So anywhere there was strong goddess female energy, he was sent to...
Was St. Bridget older, like from an earlier time than St. Patrick?
Of course.
Yeah. Exactly. So you have St. Bridget goes there.
Yeah.
Now,
but Bridget, that was before she was the original goddess energy. Bridget, the original, you could say. And
she was there, and then Patrick was sent in there afterwards.
Yeah.
Now, I always get like Irish friends of mine like, oh, we're going to celebrate St. Paddy's Day. I'm like, what? Celebrate genocide? No, thank you. I don't celebrate genocide, right? And that's the whole thing. The whole story of St. Patrick having killed all the snakes in Ireland wasn't the snakes. The snakes were the Druids. He wiped out the fucking Druids in Ireland and in England. that's what he's known for. Complete genocide. So when I sat there and when I discovered, and this, like I said, this was only after we came back, I got back from England, that I discovered St. Patrick had been there at Glastonbury, and I was like, oh, that explains a lot. That explains this.
The feeling, the layers and layers and layers of control grid
push
energy on top.
And exactly, that's like layers of layers. We must control this spot. We have to control the spot. And it's like suppressed. And that's what I said. The town of Glastonbury didn't feel good to me. I could feel there was a huge layer of black magic, like a massive fucking layer of black magic. Over
the last time I went to the White Well, so there's a cavern, right? So you've got the yew tree, which is the stick that Joseph of Arimathea planted at the base of the Tor. And that tree is decorated with ribbons and prayers and whatnot. And right next to it, there's this opening, which I think they put a Victorian sort of structure over the natural cave opening. And you go in, there's stalagmites, stalactites, and there's some sort of like, and then there's a ton of witchy figurines and candles, and it's like lunar goddess worship, but at the same time there's a severe black magic witchiness about it. Yeah. And so you go in by candlelight if you get any light, and you walk in and you feel like a block at the doorway, like stay out, don't come in. And how many times I never went in because I just stood on the opposite side of the road going, I'm not going in there.
I'm not going in there.
But the last time I said, okay, I'm going in. I'm going to go in. I just need to see what it is that I haven't seen yet. And I went in, and immediately I feel like I'm spiritually on guard, protecting myself, closing up so that nothing can come in, because it's like, woo, it feels as if every single malefic energy has been put inside there, keeping
like a seed.
That like an umbilical cord to somebody that is, seeping that energy out. But when I go across the road to where the tap is, where the water comes out there, that feels clean. It feels like it's directly from the hill, but it didn't go through that well.
That was the overwhelming feeling that when we were there, is that there were multiple layers, but there was this fakery layer where they're trying to tell you a story, a history, but it's kind of like Le Morte d'Arthur. It's like Hollywoodized, it's romanticized, it's not like real.
A spider web over the top.
And I know what Gail said, you walk around, you're touching the stones, and you stand in places, and I wanted to feel, and I kept getting nothing. I just kept getting nothing, and I was really disappointed. I was like really, really disappointed because I was expecting to be able to feel, and I got so little from it. And like I said, we walked out of the Abbey, and we went through like up the High Street, and it just gave me a nasty. Everywhere we went into that inn, the St. George or the King George Inn, that has been there since. The George, it's been there since like the 1400s or something. Oh, it was like we're like, well, let's go see it. We've never been into an inn that's been like in existence since the 1400s and continuously, like, do you know what I mean? Like, has always been in. Walked in, it was like, it was literally, it was so funny because we like walked up to where the bar was, we all turned around, went, nope, right back out again.
And if we'd had the energy to run, Danny, I think we would have.
I think we would have ran. I honestly would have been like lift your petticoats up and go, and fucking run out. It was nasty, and it was funny because even the people sitting in there, I can actually, the guy behind the bar. There was a guy sitting at the bar, and there was another guy sitting at the table. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys have seen Harry Potter, and there's the one episode of Harry Potter where he is using the flu powder, and it's, instead of saying something properly and ending up in the right place, he teleports himself into like this nasty, nasty hole in the wall, nasty magical wizards like pub, but. And like these three guys that I spotted, three specifically, I was like, It was like they crawled out of that scene. They had the worst. They were like gnarly. They were nasty.
Do you
Just
know
nasty.
I had that experience in the same in another town on the same river near the. So you got the River Parrot, right?
Yeah.
And the River Parrot goes through. It's very, very long. It goes all the way to the Bristol Channel, and so I was with a friend. She lives in Somerton, and she told me, "Oh, you've got to come to Langport. It's pirate. It's definitely pirate. We're going to go and explore." So we jumped in the car. We went 10 minutes up the road, and we're in Langport, and it's a whole nother world. It's like you entered like there's this Pirates of the Caribbean world, right? And there's a hill, and there's a chapel at the top of the hill, and it's guarded with like huge, it's you can put the drawbridge up on the town. It's that kind of place. And yet there's a river which canals and barges and even ships, small ships, used to come up and take all their wares off. And that goes all the way back to ancient times. And so all this hidden gold and stuff is purportedly landed in Langport and is in there. All the houses on the high street and the shops, a lot of them look Dutch, and they are very narrow, but they seem like they're interconnected. And there's a secret passageway around the back of this church that goes beyond a graveyard and down to the river. And you can tell there's like secret passages in that. There's all caverns and things in there. And we went to a pub to sit and have a drink. And there was no one there except for 3 people. And this is a very old pub, which is obviously only locals, but it is a tourist town. So why wouldn't a stranger walk in? Like, why not? So we walk in and then suddenly get stared down, and the whole place goes quiet and nobody utters a word. And we walk to the back where we're like, oh, there's a nice little garden, a patio. And they stare at us, and then someone goes, "Can I help you?" And we're like, can we sit here and have a drink? And they're like, the look was, "You can't come in here. You're strangers." And then,
that was exactly these 3 guys in the George. They stared. It was like this: "Get out. You don't belong here. Get the fuck out." That was exactly the same feeling I had from the 3 guys in the George.
And it makes perfect sense, Danny, because we're unfuckers, right? So
yeah, I didn't like it.
The whole reason that we were there, I think, was to unfuck that situation and to stand on that land, stamp our feet and say, nope.
Nope.
And that energy is so different, to a fragile matrix that's on its way down, and the people who are madly trying to hold it together. It's very threatening energy to people like that. It's like...
Yeah, and you probably walked right through their cobwebs, that they're sort of invisible cobwebs that they've put up that people just walk past and don't like venture in. But because you like, yeah, we're going in, and you just knocked over all their cobwebs, and they're like, oh, we're going to have to put them back now.
And then we're going to build those all back up again.
But listen, I want to say something. Danny, you kept saying, while we were there, you kept saying, I know there's somewhere else. There's somewhere else.
That's my gut.
Today I came across, there's so many interesting things about this journey. I didn't prepare at all before we went over. I didn't look at anything to do with Glastonbury.
Neither did I. I didn't have time.
Just went. And in retrospect, I have started looking at a few things. And I found the St. Breed's Mount. Do you know anything about that? This would have been a church to Bridget, a place where the goddess, if you like, Bridget stayed, and apparently there's a well there.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, was that the place that you were looking for, Danny, perhaps?
When we were talking, was it last week? 2 weeks ago? Before? After England, but before now. I literally started crawling through like Google Maps on the satellite view, because that was my whole thing. It was like, Glastonbury is not it. this is not it. There's another place. And I think I said to you guys, what's on the other side of the tour?
Yeah, what's on the opposite side?
Tour. Yeah, right. So like there's the Glastonbury tour with this little tower. And on this side, you have like the village of Glastonbury. And I just kept going, well, what's on the other side? What's on the opposite side? And I kept trying to zoom in. Well, you know what? There's a split on the Google satellite map. So you know how they patchwork the maps together? But this patchwork, it makes this one section really, really dark. And when you tried to zoom in, I couldn't get it, and it literally felt like a block. It was like, you're not going to look here. And I started literally crawling through it, like at 100-meter intervals, as zoomed in as much as I could, going, there has to be almost like dowsing to try and find a place. So I want to know where this Breed's Island is.
It's very close to the tour, but it's very close to the tour. It's at the base of, but I'm not quite sure which side. Breed's
There's originally 7 isles.
Yeah.
So, and presumably the mound where the tour is one. That's an isle, right?
Yeah.
That would have been sticking out in the middle, and maybe the other 6 were around it.
I'm just going to pull it up again.
I have a map of it here. It's outside Glastonbury. I don't know if this will show it in relation to the tour. It won't.
Because that mound that supposedly Cadbury Castle is on, that is another mound.
Well, here the problem is for example, when you go in on the satellite view and you try and pull up, so you can see. So there's Glastonbury tour here. There's what looks like another little mound over here. It's very, very, here, I'll show you what I mean. Where's screen share? Where's Zoom? I've lost Zoom. There's Zoom. Okay. Okay. I'm going to close this over. So you see this? So here's Glastonbury tour. There's the tour. And look how it labels the Eggstone, Anne. And I looked at that and I went, that's not the Eggstone. Literally, that was my instant when I looked at it was like, that's not the Eggstone. And then I was like, I know nothing. But apparently, because you and I talked, we all talked, the 3 of us with Gail, talked about the dragon's egg, right? Yeah. Being somewhere around there. And I was like, that's not it. That's not it. It just, my gut immediately was like, nope, that's a distraction. So this is it. So you've got, here's Glastonbury Abbey over here, right? This is where Glastonbury Abbey is. There's the tour.
We walked all around there, and we were too fat to go up here.
We were parked. Where were we parked? We were parked just over here. We were parked right there, right over here. We were parked, and like I said, we came out of Glastonbury Abbey. We walked up the high street over here, and then we came back, and we were done. We were done. There was like, I could not go any farther, to the point of, like I said, Gail went into the little, what she thought was the information center. She thought was the information center because during the summer they have bus tours. Like they have a little shuttle bus that'll take you up to the top. And Anne and I were like, there ain't no way we can walk to the top of this. We can't. We were physically fucked. And then Gail goes into the Gnostic. No, it wasn't a Gnostic.
Gnostic.
It was a Gnostic chapel.
Gnostic
but I didn't
chapel.
see it until I was like literally holding the handle to go in.
And you said it was just nasty.
It was even the smell, the atmosphere, the feeling, the smell. It was just all wrong.
Anne and I are saying,
I walked out of there going, you've got to go in there.
She comes back to the car. Anne and I are standing outside the car, having a smoke, kind of leaning on the car, because like literally it was that bad at that point. Having our quintessential, I got to have a smoke. I got to ground out here somehow. And Gail's like, you guys have to go in. And we're like, it's what, 30 feet away? And we're like, no. She was like, no, you have to go in and see this. Like, it smells like rotting bodies. And I'm like, no. And no, not going in. You could not have offered us $1,000 to have gone into that place. Like, it was just like, no,
me
not
trying
going.
to kill them all.
It was terrible. But
I
literally,
might show you
The
Breed.
weirdest thing, Amina. Sorry, Anne.
Oh no, it's okay. Go ahead. I just have Breed's Mound here on a map.
okay, well here, I'll
How's
stop
that
sharing.
spelt?
Will I start sharing if I can figure it? Share. Because share.
It's coming up. It's coming up slowly.
It's going up. It's going up. It's there.
There we go. Okay.
The Taurus in
Oh, Bridie's.
Bridal.
Bridie's Mound.
Hmm. Oh, I've been
It's
to that
the one
Tesco.
reverse.
And can you switch it to the satellite view?
I know that there's like fields there. I've been there. I've been there. Because I remember going to the Tesco's
Good.
and looking for a bit of land somewhere that I was like drawn to.
And we lost Anne.
It's in the corner of a field.
Hold on. We've lost Anne, and I knew her internet was going to go shockingly bad. Okay, so Glastonbury, looking at it from what I saw.
Go left. Scroll down to your left. Pull the map over.
Now, hold
Okay,
on.
and
Just
then
give me a second. Where does it say Bridie?
back.
No, there's
Go
Glastonbury. It was where she was showing was somewhere like right
Yes.
Around here.
over here. Okay,
went
so hold on.
I went there. It is a very sort of, people do visit it in you wear your muddy boots and you go and trudge across like some path alongside a farmer's field, and you go to the corner of the farmer's field and there's a mound. And so I went there. Yeah.
It hasn't been messed with. Sounds like it has less of the overlay on it than
Glastonbury.
the rest of Glastonbury.
I think that has to be it right here.
Yeah, it could be, I suppose.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause I
looking
remember
from what you
stopping
saw,
at
because there's Glastonbury over here.
right there, yeah.
There's Glastonbury Abbey. When you
No. It's
That's
down here.
Yeah, but there's Glastonbury Abbey there. And when I looked at what she was, oh, maybe it's over here. Maybe this is it.
No, further. It's further. It's even more to the left. So you see where Tesco's Superstore is?
No.
Okay, it's on the opposite field.
There's Sainsbury's. Ha ha ha.
Okay, yeah. So there's the Premier Glastonbury. Okay, if from there. Oh, you got it. Oh no. Okay. I just lost it now. I saw it. You see, you went too far. Wait, where was that just now? About 3 seconds ago, you had it.
So if we look, okay, I'll do the overhead. I'll put it back into the 3D view. So we are now way over from Glastonbury. There's Glastonbury there.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What Anne was showing us.
There, you see right at the top of the page, right at the top of the map,
Yeah.
you see Tesco Superstore. Oh, now you've brought it down a bit. So it's now 1/3 down.
Yeah.
Move your cursor down.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No, not too far. Stop moving the map because you're going to
I'm not moving it. I'm not moving it.
Oh, okay. Move your cursor up.
Okay, there's Tesco Superstore. I see it. Okay. There's Tesco's.
There's Tesco's. All right. So now move your cursor. That's it.
That's it right there. Okay,
right
so
there.
that's exactly where I was showing. See, I took a guess.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I guessed and said, I think that's got to be where it is. So zooming in here, I'm going to put on this view here because it makes it a little easier when you see it on this slate.
Is that like a traveller's?
Like a gypsy.
It's all caravans. It's all.
Caravan.
I'd say it's a campground there.
I don't think it's campground. That
Yeah.
looks more like a traveller's
Yeah.
site.
Isn't that interesting that they would choose to park there?
Yeah.
That would be very interesting because again. So what's that? This copse of trees right here. That's what keeps kind of calling to me. Like I keep going back to this, and it's this right here in the center. This copse of trees over here to the center is what kind of
Gail,
caught my
you got a
eye.
mission. You got a mission, Gail.
Gail, you
Right,
have a
okay.
mission.
So this is, what's this area? So that's right by Tesco.
Yeah, so there's the roundabout. The Glastonbury roundabout is up there.
Oh, right, I know where it is. Yeah.
Okay, and then there's the Tesco's is right here. So it's like literally there's a street, but so instead of, what is it, Beckerley? Beckery?
Yeah.
Instead of Beckery New Road to Tesco's, you want to take Beckery Old Road. Beckery Old Road. And then
Okay.
off there
Don't
to the
walk-
right.
Don't walk through there. There's a pathway. There's a pathway where you can walk along the sides of the field.
That might be gone now, though, the travellers. But mind you, it looks a bit permanent, doesn't it?
It does.
They look kind of happy there.
I don't know.
While you're down there,
Yeah.
grab a copy of this from the Chalicewell shop.
What was it called? Let me write it down.
Type it, Amina, if you can type it into our chat for us.
Okay.
Hmm.
Where's the chat gone?
Well, you'll have
Wiggle your cursor.
famous
Oh, yeah,
last
yeah.
words of Zoom. Where's my Zoom chat gone? Look, see, what's that?
Ooh.
Okay.
Is that pinging you, Anne? Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
for anyone who comes from Ireland,
Yeah, exactly. Stone circles. Stone circles. It's a fairy circle. So if we look, that is, I'm pulling back out so we can see.
Okay.
So there's Glastonbury up there. There's the Abbey. There's the main road. I don't know what this road here is called. It doesn't really.
There's a proper job round there.
Tarview Avenue. Tarview Avenue.
Torview.
Torview Avenue. Sorry, I don't have glasses on. I can't actually read these words. And it's
And I
behind this. It's behind the street there. It looks like a farmer's field, but there's.
Yeah.
What's that?
that's Wirral.
Whirl
You're close.
Court Crescent. I can't tell. Off
I think it's real
Torview.
close.
Got the Roman Way, then the View Avenue. How do you
There's another brilliant
There's a-
stone circle not far away, but it's not in Glastonbury. It's down towards Chew Magna. So if you go south
Here's
from
what I'm going to do.
Bristol,
Well, yeah, I'm right near True Magna.
right? So there's a big stone circle right near you then, which is ancient, and it's very energetic. And there's a stone by a pub. So if you go to Chew Magna, and I can show you, there's a windmill house, not a windmill house. It's like there's an old building on the junction. See, I know this area so well, and I live 7,000 miles away from it. It's like freaky. So
I've grabbed a map shot of it,
the Toll
Gail.
House.
So I'll send you the map shot of it so you can actually look at it. But that's my
See
whole
what
thing.
I'm doing. What's
There's-
tomorrow? Friday.
The different,
Yeah.
the energy isn't right
Hmm.
in these places, and it's like you're distracted to look here, and that was my overall was like it's not here.
Yeah.
that was
Here.
the point I was going to make, is that we was distracted from doing what we were going
Well,
to do.
I wouldn't actually agree with that, Gail. My feeling is that these places, there was an original energy. There was a very strong, powerful energy in Glastonbury at one time that has been overlaid and overlaid and overlaid and distorted. And you will find usually, certainly in the Irish sites, you will find that the original is so distorted now that there's no point in even going there. You find that with Tara, you find that with Newgrange, but close by you will usually find another site that has not been overtaken, that has not been Christianized, that has not been,
Warped.
warped, distorted, whatever.
Well,
and I feel that that reason that we went to, there's a kind of an unblocking, you know, it's like taking the plugs out of the matrix, you know, going to these places and saying, fuck off, you know, we're not having your energy around anymore. And that is, you know, that is allowing energy to flow through the energetic system, the original energy to flow through the energetic system. That's my feeling anyway. It's like,
well, I feel like we got blocked from going to that egg, the dragon's egg, because I felt that was quite important.
Yeah.
We found that, but our energy had just run too low.
Yeah.
There was nothing left.
No,
there was no energy left for it. Well, that's okay. It just means we have to do another trip. That's all. Do another trip, and this time we'll take extra batteries with us. like you'll pack them in your purse. We'll be walking with like car batteries. Just gonna stick them to my earrings to charge myself back up. Okay, Anne, I want to say this because when you were talking, this kind of popped into my head. We know how they always warp everything, and the distraction, the warping. So one of my thoughts that just popped in was, I don't know that they can actually, the main power sites, if you will, those main points, they can't actually fuck with them. So what they do is point to another site over here.
Okay. That's what you were sort of saying.
Go over there where they can then control it, because that they can control. And that is the best way to for example, because if anyone feels the energy, if anyone who's is got a draw to these things, they're going to go, okay, we're going to go to Glastonbury, and you go to Glastonbury, and you read, you do your feeling around, and you go to the places, etc. And if they take those places and they warp them, it distracts from the fact that that's not the real place. The real place is always going to be nearby, because it's going to still draw people in, right? Like the energy will continuously draw people in. But if it's like, you know, it's like if you're driving to a new area that you don't know, you're going in the right direction, and then you stop and ask for directions, and the people go, oh yeah, it's over here. Well, they're great. So you go over here. Well, meanwhile, where you're actually feeling that you want to go is right over here.
Every single time I've gone there, I've left it open to see what I'm supposed to find out. So every single time I've gone, there's been a completely different adventure. And I do this thing so that I open it up, and, you know, I will follow the clues. Whether it takes me halfway across England, Wales, or whatever, or not, I'll still follow the clues. So one time, it was in 2011, there was a flight, a cheap AirAsia flight that went from Kuala Lumpur to Paris. And I took my son, and we decided to catch that flight to Paris, but we couldn't really afford to stay in Paris. But when we got to Paris, we thought, we'll land in the morning. That gives us a whole day there. And then I'll find my first clue before I leave Paris and get the train to London at night. And my son's like, okay, whatever, because it's going to be clue to clue. And I documented it with photographs. And we walked around Paris, and we get to the Champs-Élysées, and we sit down and we have like coffee, pizza, something to eat. And I'm like, we've been here all morning, all afternoon, and we still haven't found our first clue. And my little son's like 11, and he's sitting looking outside the window, and next to this cafe where we're lardy-darring with our cappuccinos, there is this door with a signboard that said Arthur Hunt, which is somebody's name on a plaque, because they're probably like a lawyer or something.
Lawyer, yeah.
And it's their office. And it said Arthur Hunt. So I took a picture of it, and I said, I think that's our first clue. We can now go to Gare du Nord and get our luggage and go on the train. So we did that. We get to London, and I get another clue, and then and it took me all the way to Oxford, and then it took me to Devizes, and and there were all the clues along the way until I ended up in Wales. but it was an Arthur hunt. The whole thing was, the journey was called Arthur Hunt. And and it took me through Glastonbury. So I had to stop at Glastonbury. And because Glastonbury isn't near a train station, you've got to go to Castle Carey. So I'm on the train. I'm going from Devizes to Castle Carey. I got to get out of Castle Carey with some luggage and a kid. I got to figure out how I'm going to get all the way to Glastonbury. And there's this like 3 taxis waiting outside this tiny little station. And I've got to go about 10 miles. And so I asked the lady if she's all right to take me to Glastonbury. So she's got a fare. Yeah. And then I said, but how do I get a taxi to come back to the station tonight? Because, I'm going to go and stay in Wells. And she's like, well, I tell you what, I can keep your luggage in the car all day as I do the passengers, and you can give me a call. And it was like, all right. So this nice lady, I think she's called Carol Parrott or something, if anyone bumps into her. Thank you, Carol. And so she takes our luggage in her car. I've surrendered my luggage, and I'm on this Arthur Hunt, and I'm in Glastonbury, and I don't know if I'm going to ever get my luggage back, but she seems like a nice lady, right? So trust the universe, this is going to be all right. And I get clues all the way along, like I bump into people that randomly pop up, bump into somebody that's got random information, and they seem very, very genuine, authentic people that have been in that land for like yonks, and they're not part of the overlay, they're part of the original.
The original. Mm-hmm.
And they literally pop up and they notice you, and then they tell you, oh, you got to go over here, and you don't even ask them, what am I doing here? They know that you're coming and you're on a hunt of some kind, and you need some.
You're on a quest. You're on an Arthurian quest.
Oh, Amina, I love that story. Did you get your luggage back?
No. Oh yeah, I called her, and she said, "That's all right. I'm just round the corner. Here's your luggage." So it was fine.
Excellent.
She dropped me at a bus station, which took me on a bus to Wells.
Nice.
So yeah, perfectly fine. And you just got to trust that everything's going to be all right. And all the way around England and Wales, it just so happened that there are people that I know in all these different little locations, and they're just separated by a train stop or a bus stop. And so I had a sofa to sleep on, for one night and move on, or whatever it was, spare room, a sofa, a couch, and I was done.
This is the thing. Since I've announced that we're moving to the UK, I've lost track of how many messages, comments, etc. I've had going, oh my God, why are you going to the UK? Belly of the beast, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, number one, because it's the next place I have to go. I can't say why. I have no idea. I just know that that's the place. It has to be in that place. I don't know why we're specifically going. I'm getting hints now. Little things are coming up that I'm going, oh, look at that. That's why we're going to the UK. But that's that whole thing. And I have followed that path for years now. For 6 years, I have been following this path that takes me to the next place I'm supposed to be. So,
and then you'll find out at the next place, you'll find out what the next thing to do is.
Which the next thing to do it is. Exactly. And that was Australia. And a lot of people were like, oh my God, Australia was such a waste of time for you. And like all the shit that you went through. And I'm like, no, Australia was really, really fucking important. That's where I met Ben. That's where I met Jesse and Phil and all these people who I made very, very strong connections with. That's where I learned a huge amount. There was an experience there that we needed to go through, that we needed to bring on board. And when that experience was done, we were not allowed to stay. It was like that. And that's kind of how the universe always works with us. It's like, okay, you go, you're done here. You go, and it doesn't give you a choice. It's like, no, get the fuck out. You got to leave. And It was the same thing. Where are we going to go? Malta. Got to Malta. And as soon as we got here, okay, well, what am I here in Malta to do? And goes, oh,
why am I here? Yes.
And there's been, there was the Unfucker gathering. Then we had our own little gathering that we had for my birthday. And there's been several things that have come up. And it's funny because the people who I've reached out to thinking that they were people I needed to connect with in Gozo haven't worked. Yet it's like you say, all the other people just pop up and they give you a piece. Pop up. Someone pops up here, and it's where you don't expect it. And it was the same thing. Gozo was fine.
Yeah.
Gozo was fine. Yes, we had our issues. We struggled. Obviously the fucking government here is just like, ah. And then all of a sudden it was like in November, it came to break point. And Nick and I felt it at the same time. It was like, snap, Gozo's done. We have to leave. And it was like, we have to fucking leave. And since that point, I've been like, we have to leave. We have to get to England. That's the next point. We have to be there. So, and we're packing up everything in the house right now, getting ready to stuff to sell off, stuff to give away, etc. And I know that I need to be in England for the first week of March.
And you're like traveling light. I mean, you got what you need, and then it's like whenever I travel, I pack all my old clothes. If I lose my suitcase, it's only old clothes. It's okay, and I'm only going to wear them once more. So I've washed them to put away and wear when I travel, and then I discard the clothes as I go because they would have been thrown out anyway. And I end up with nothing.
I have to let the cat out.
Okay, go let the cat out before he attacks something.
And I end up with a suitcase full of books like this, little treasures, stuff that I need. Like I needed that. I needed this.
I need this. Like
yeah. So it's well worth it. I mean, why would I spend whatever part of my airfare is on clothes
to bring back a rock?
Yeah, when I could bring back something that's more important. So
I like that philosophy.
Yep. No, that's it. This is the same thing. That's what we're doing. We're just getting rid of everything. I was joking with Jenny saying, Jenny, be prepared. I'm going to feel like I'm already putting boxes together for stuff for Jenny. I don't need this. I'm going to give that to Jenny. Jenny can use that. There we go. So, yeah. No, the journey. I know what draws me. I know that at some point I have to be back down there in that Somerset area. I know. So like we'll be landing in the Midlands and we'll be a couple of months in the Midlands. And then I'm like, but then it's either Wales, the south of Wales, or it's that curve of land, right? Somerset, Wales, somewhere in there. And I know that that's where it is. I can't tell you why. I just know that is where it is.
You won't know why right now. Like,
no, exactly.
I've even thought of, should I move to Chew Magna? I've even gone that far to look at properties in Chew Magna over the years.
Where's Chew Magna?
Well, it's near where Gail is.
Yeah, it's literally between Bristol and Cheddar.
Oh, okay. Really,
and
Amina?
Yeah, I've wanted to live in Chew Magna. I found properties that I like, and they all get sold before I'm even like available for them. But it's there in my mind that I'm drawn to Chew Magna or the Mendips in some way.
Yeah, the Mendips. There's something about the Mendips.
Yeah.
Going back to that Cheddar Gorge experience, there's something about the Mendips.
Your Cheddar Gorge experience is very similar to my Wookiee Hole experience, and only when you mentioned it did I look at the how they're connected on the map. And so there is, in the old caverns under the Mendips, there is an ancient trading shipping route that goes all the way through those caverns from Wookiee to Cheddar. And imagine being like 1,000 years ago and you've got cargo to deliver into Somerset and you go through those caverns. Oh my God. That's crazy. But they're very, very energetic. Yeah. I mean, being inside Wookiee Hole, it was okay. So what I felt when I was in there was, there was a kind of like woo feeling, like expansion, contraction, and I'm in the middle and I'm feeling it. But it was very similar to an experience here in Malaysia. So there are some caves in Malaysia. Now, my late father-in-law had a martial arts teacher who's a very famous martial artist who disappeared. And, okay, dragon stories here are like dragon stories there. There's no difference. And the thing is they have this like alabaster balls or marble balls or things made of like crystal. There's always a ball, which in Malay is called a galiga. And certain galigas have special powers that can bring you back from the dead. So this guy who's called Mak Kilau used to fight in the jungles, and up until the times of like we've had all kinds of emergencies in the jungles. There's all kinds of like communists and whatnot, and well, he used to fight in the jungles, and he had his 7 men around him, and if he died, so if he was stabbed or shot or something, they have to put the galiga on his chest, and then he comes back and he's healed and he's back and he can fight some more. So this is part of the martial arts. The local martial art is called silat, which is a very mystical art. Okay, so my late father-in-law used to teach silat, but his teacher Mak Kilau disappeared one day. So he was about 80 years old, but he disappeared and he didn't die. So he'd done this back to life thing a few times, but this time he just disappeared. And so the legend goes that he just sort of like vanished, a bit like other warriors that had just vanished into the jungle and never heard of again. They just become legends after that. But what happened was that in Japan, a master appeared, O-sensei, appeared out of nowhere as an old man, exact image as Mak Kilau. And so those caves in the jungle, those limestone caves that go on and on and on for miles that no one can map because it's too deep, a lot of people say, who are into this mystic stuff, well, they probably end up and come out in Japan. Because as soon as Mak Kilau came out, as soon as he disappeared, O-sensei turned up in Japan, and he was teaching the exact same practices and methods of the silat martial art way, and created aikido from it. And when I went to the States back in the 90s, in the mid 90s, I went to the States, and one of O-sensei's student had a dojo in California. And he was really into mystical, spiritual stuff. And he had an original video of O-sensei performing Aikido on US Navy Marines. And he took on about 120 of them. And he was just going, quack, 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 quack. And he was on his knees. He wasn't even standing. And he was flipping them left, right, and center. And my ex-husband, who's like learned this martial art, was also, he's like, oh my God, that's not O-sensei, is it? And this guy in California is like, yeah, that's O-sensei. And he's like, no, that's Mak Kilau. That is Mak Kilau. That is Mak Kilau silat. And he's like, what are you talking about? How did Mak Kilau end up in Japan? Well, he disappeared in the jungles beside the caves. How on earth? Those caves must go all the way from Malaysia to Japan because he popped up.
Or he just like portal
Teleport.
stuff. Like this
Portal.
is these
Yeah.
portals, right? This is one of those pieces, and we can't even get into this in the recording today.
The Mendips have those portals.
Yes.
And those, they have caves and they're limestone.
And Malta as well.
And the Witch of Wookiee, she has a ball, an alabaster ball, which they found beside her bones. Right, Gail?
Yeah. They're not 100% certain whether the skeleton that they found was the witch, but because they found
A dagger.
the dagger, the alabaster ball, and there was it wolf bones? No, what were the bones that they found?
Like a human had lived in exile somehow with wolves.
No, wolves. There was an animal bone that they found with her. They put the 2 and 2 together. But there is my ex is a cave guide there, and he's really into the history of it all, and he learnt off by heart this poem, which is all about the witch. But we've looked at the old maps, and there's a sketch of a female, and she's, for want of a better word, I think a siren, that is in the caves, which would kind of make sense because of the waterways, and if it's linked so deeply, because they haven't found half of the cave that's down there.
Because the Celts who were living in that area had dominated that area, and there were strange stories of how, like, King Arthur, so he dies in battle, or he's wounded in battle in Somerset, and so the knights take him to Avalon for healing, right? So he gets to Avalon for healing, and he sends one of them out to make sure that they throw Excalibur into the lake. And he didn't. He hid it behind a tree or something and came back, and Arthur's like, did you throw it into the lake? And he says, yeah, no, you didn't. Tell me what you saw. No, it was just a lake and just some water, just threw it in. And he's like, you didn't. Go back and properly throw it in the lake. And apparently he did, and came back, and he'd witnessed this hand taking
the hand come out and take the sword.
But King Arthur's body had been taken into the forest by hooded women in black hoods. And as far as I can tell, they were women in these black hoods. So what in the Middle Ages would be considered witches, but in those days were women of the woods, or
they were wise women,
elementals, or wise women, and they're healers. And he's taken, and that's the last they see of him. So the records don't show any more than that. And apparently the next day they go to some sort of small hamlet where there's somebody there, and it's like, did you see anybody being taken, a guy, a king or something, being escorted? Oh yeah, we saw a king with some women, and he went over there and is buried. And so they recorded that he was buried. That means he died. Okay, but from what I've understood was that he was taken in those waterways all the way to the Bristol Channel and across to St. Donats in Wales. Now, if you think about it, the Bristol Channel is only about, 50 meters deep? It's not that deep.
Yeah. And
those caves are deeper. So if you go into the Mendips and you actually explore the caves, I'm not advising anyone to do that because you get lost. But
I do it anyway.
Gail's done it. She's done it a few times.
But if you'd walk all the way in and you knew where you were going, could you not end up in Wales? Could you not end up in Scotland?
This is the whole thing about caves. So Nick has got an obsession with caves. Always. Like, literally, when we drive around anywhere, he's like, oh, cave.
Well, big enough.
Cave. Oh, look at cave. And it's Gozo. Gozo in Malta is riddled with caves and catacombs. And every year another catacomb is discovered. Someone's drilling a well. Someone's building down. Oh, look, there's another catacomb. And the rumors have always been, the legends have always been, that Gozo and Malta are connected to mainland Italy. Through that you used to be able to walk through the caves all the way to Italy, all the way up through Europe, all the way to England.
All the way to England.
All the way to England. And that all of this, and that basically these caves go all the way around. They go all the way down to Jerusalem, go all the way down.
So if they go to Jerusalem and they go to Malta and they go to England, doesn't it make sense? There's the tribe of, there's all the it's tribe of Dan.
Yeah. Well, the 12 tribes, you mean?
Yeah. When you look at, you've got, what's the emblem on the coat of arms for Ulster in Ireland?
No idea.
It's the red hand, right?
Is it?
Okay. Yeah.
And then you've got the red lion.
And then you've got the red dragon.
And then you've got the red dragon. Okay, so out of the lineage of so the tribe of Dan had no actual land, but they were looking for a place to call home. So all the other tribes have accounts of like, oh, this was there where they settled, these are their lands, but Dan didn't. And Dan comes from the main line, right? So they split. One son, they're twins. One of the twins was born by hand only. The midwife put a red string
around his hand. Yep.
Right? And then the hand went back in, and it wasn't going to be the firstborn because the other twin got born first. And they carry the red lion of their line. And so the other twin who's born second and is like a bit begruntled by that, uses the red hand and the red string as their coat of arms. And that turns up in Ireland, it turns up in all the Celtic regions, right? So there's and then the name Dan appears in the names and of places and rivers all the way through Europe. So what if we've got the Phoenicians who are, they use the shipping lanes and they're experts at shipping and trade and commerce. And then we've got the cave system. What if there are other wandering peoples that are using the cave, but they're interconnected? That's why the language is so similar.
Right. So, but we just mentioned, what is it when we were looking at the map? You guys just mentioned, oh, look, it's the travelers, right? And this is the whole thing. Like when you look at the legends of the Rom and the travelers, that they went all the way down into Asia Minor, that they carried back really, really important pieces of history.
It's like Middle Earth.
Yeah. Were you saying about the internal covenant system within our realm? I mean, I'm not really a flat earther because my theory is that we're actually on a planet that's a lot bigger, and that our section is, it seems flat because we're such a small section on that planet. So then you've got your ice wall that's around, and you've got all your realms of across the planet in different areas. And I've always felt that it's connections from the
one to the other,
from one to the other. That's why.
So J.R.R. Tolkien, he studied languages, right? So he as a descendant of Saxon lineage, he had to learn Saxon languages, and he had to learn Welsh, and he had to learn all these ancient languages so that he can. Well, that was his fascination, but writing stories around what he'd learned was based on historical truth, language, mystical folklore, and no one would have heard of Middle Earth if it wasn't for him, right? Until now, we're very, very aware of this place called Middle Earth because he made it very important. But in the Anglo-Saxon language, Middle Earth is Midgard. And this is my son was telling me this yesterday because he's reading.
Get into the Viking legends of Midgard.
So Midgard, and that is the middle, and then below it is Asgard, which is the inner earth. And what if all these beings and mystical people and creatures are actually Asgardians coming out from caves, showing truth seekers, travelers the way, and disappearing back? And certain people who've got certain like destinies, they give them things like swords.
So I wish Sue could have been here with us for this conversation. We had a lot of run-ins and still have many, many times, but especially in 2013 with the guy we called the old man. When we would go out energetically looking at things, events that were going on, and you just allow yourself to just go, whether you want to call it remote viewing, etc. And the old man would always show up. And it didn't matter if, for example, on the same night, Sue and I both had almost identical visions, if you will. Hers was in Tibet. which would make sense, in the mountains, and seeing an old man at the side of the trail of the mountains, dressed in the native clothes, if you will, of the region, just sitting there watching, but knowing that he was the watcher. No, you knew when you saw him that he was the watcher. He was observing the comings and goings of everything that was going on. And at the same time, I was in the mountains down in the south of Morocco, and I seen the same thing. I'm climbing up a mountain range, and I see a little old man sitting at the side of the trail, dressed in the blue robes, the all blue robes of the, oh, fuck. My brain doesn't work.
Berber.
The Berber, but there's a specific tribe that wear the blue. Well, fuck.
The
yes.
The car that's named after them.
Yeah, Tuga, but it's not Tuga. It's
Tuareg.
Tuareg. That's it. The Tuareg. That's it. The Tuareg tribe. And he's sitting on the side of this trail, and dressed in the old robes of like the Tuareg tribe. And same thing, as I'm seeing him, I'm like, he's watching. He's a watcher. He looks like he should just blend into the background, but he's a watcher. And both of us at the same time, we saw the cave, and we went into a cave. And these are the crazy things that keep coming up. Caves play a central role, and I don't think it's just the connections, i.e. physical connections. I literally think that these caves are portals, that they are central places where they go in. And Nick worked with...
They match up with ley lines as well.
Oh, sure. No doubt.
So I'm wondering, like on Earth, on the top of the Earth, where we are, we've got the ley lines which we can measure with magnetic fields.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What are the ley lines like when you're underneath or in the earth? If that exists and you're inside, what are ley lines there? Are they?
Is that why they keep collapsing caves? That's why the caves, like in Malta, they keep collapsing catacombs and caves, so people can't go into them.
But what if it's like, because in Asgard they have a sun and they have a sky? What if it is the star map in their world, the map of the stars?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And all those points where the ley lines cross are bright stars. So where we have stone circles is like Beetlejuice down there. You know what I mean?
Oh, man.
I can't remember who we were talking to, and we were talking about the ley lines, about it being underground and there being this, obviously it's an energetic line, but flowing like water. So where you're saying about like the caverns dropping, the caves collapsing, them trying to cut it off, but I still see it as that flow of energy, and it might take a dip, but it's still gonna continue to flow. I've just got this really strong mental image of seeing the ley lines while we were talking about it, and seeing that energy running like water. And we were talking about the whole dragon connection. Might have been when I went to the crop circles a couple of years ago.
Yep.
I think it was then. We were talking about ley lines then. Just something that just popped into my head, a memory.
Well, I mean, ley lines, the flowing of the energy is kind of like the blood.
Well, that's what they are.
The vessels, the blood vessels of the planet, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? Do you know what I mean? Like the way it flows everywhere.
Yeah.
So you're saying, what do they look like when you're actually in the earth, Amina? Is that what you're saying?
If we're in layers of inner earth, middle earth, upper earth, who's to say that beyond our sky is not another earth?
Yeah.
Right? And what we see at the uppermost reaches of our view is stars, which have always been important to every culture throughout time. The stars. They put buildings on the earth to match the stars. okay, what if in every layer, the ley lines are on top, but underneath it is another layer of stars for the people below. And it just keeps going further and further in, so that,
Russian doll.
yeah, what if? I mean, just putting it out
what if?
there.
No. Hey, I like what ifs.
It's a visual that
Yeah, I like that.
And we know that they, quintessential they, put monuments and things on top of key places. Again, to try and divert, to absorb, to suck out energy. And you and I talked about this a long time ago. They call the big tall fucking phallic monuments.
Obelisks.
No, it's just
Obelisks.
yeah.
Yeah, right in the center of Vatican Square, in London, in Washington D.C., in Egypt, etc.
So we're here in dumbed down world, right? So we're in the worst part, really, because those below seem to know more, and those above us seem to know more too. But we're in the dumbed down version of it, right? What if, like, because there's always that alien connection or star people connection or foreign alien force sort of people from other planets. They seem to have, like, now it's permeated the culture so much that either people feel as if they're from another planet, their star fields, or people are saying, well, those people in control are from another planet or from another space. And what if there is that Earth above our Earth, and they know, so if their ley lines are our stars, they know what our ley lines are then.
Yeah.
The people below also know, but there's good ones and bad ones. I mean, so, trolls come out from under the earth. They're the bad guys. And you've got like, beings that seem to come down from elsewhere. What if they're, there's good and bad in both, and we're in dumbed down world, basically.
Serious fucking dumbed down world.
We're kind of like,
there's so many. This is where my head goes round and round, and I question whether there's any point in looking at this to a certain extent, because we have people like Dan Burish, for instance, who would reckon that various aliens he's encountered are simply us in the future, or versions of us from the future.
Versions, yeah.
And it's like, it's, to me, it's this multi-dimensional chessboard, if you like, that goes backwards and forwards and up and down and in and out. And it's like, when I look at all the narratives, there's I don't discount any of them necessarily, but I mean, because they're not for me to discount. I think that for us to our dumbed down, if you like, human brain will grasp onto a narrative that resonates with you, but in a way, all the narratives can actually be the same. They are probably a version of the same thing.
Absolutely.
And that's
on a quantum level, we really don't exist. It's just holographic, right? So we're experiencing something.
Yeah,
and
we're having fun. Igor from the UU, he calls it edutainment.
Edutainment. I like it. It's all edutainment.
Passing the time.
Well, that's why I keep saying, like if we look at the things that we know on that quantum kind of science side, time is not linear, et cetera, and we're talking about things like, we're talking about portals, and we're talking about ancient history, but this is the thing, like, is that just another game, another theater play that's playing out in that same spot at place, but it's in a different construct. It's and they're all playing out simultaneously. And that's where, when we go back to this whole thing of like going to Glastonbury and the shit that happened there, it's like, but were we there then? Were we there now? Do you know what I'm saying? Like what was the purpose for going? And was it
you got an experience that made you want to go back?
Yeah.
you had limited time, but in that limited time, you were blown away with an experience.
Yeah.
Therefore, that's why we're having this conversation. But it's also definitely hooked you to go back.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say the same for me. Every time I go, I have an experience and it hooks me to go back. I'm not done yet because I haven't found the truth or the essence of what it is. But every time I do go, people pop out of nowhere. It's like I'm on a path and it flows. It feels very nice when it flows and I'm on the right track.
Yep.
You know, and I like going on a path where I feel like I'm in the flow, you know, and I don't know what the next day is going to bring, not even the next moment, but it's definitely bringing me somewhere. It's bringing me to something more authentic than this.
More authentic than this.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
what woo is to me.
Yep.
It's more authentic than this. And I don't understand woo, but I endeavor to find out more. That's what it is. Right? I'll go on an adventure and find out more about the woo. Whatever that is, it's just more authentic than this.
Yep.
I'm not prepared to live a life.
A very good way of looking at it. I like that, Amina.
With no depth and meaning. I don't want to live a whole life with no depth and meaning at all. At least give me some adventure. And if that's what I need, you know, a little bit of mystery tour to go with it. Give me that. Okay, fine.
Fantastical craziness just on the side.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's taken me to the most weird and wonderful places. And my life wouldn't be the same without them.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, there's meaning in there, and I might not understand it, but there's meaning in there. And I like that's it, right? I always endeavor to find out more. And every single time I get a hook, must go back. And I do. And then one day I'll just get up and go, today's the day that I'm going to book the tickets to go back. And there are other places in this world that have that for me, like Malacca is another one. I have to go back. I keep having to go back. And there's more to discover. There's more tunnels underneath, and there's more mysteries and stories and things to unveil. And
things to unveil.
Maybe that's my psychological type. But if I don't have that, what do I have?
Yeah.
It's just not meaningful. It's not meaningful at all. And the fact that many of these things interconnect and then they ping, like how can I deny that experience of that Kundalini awakening? You know, it was 2 months after I did the proper mixing in the right way and sat at the right place. I drank it. And I've been drinking that water separately for years. And I have gone through like different layers of awakening throughout that period, but I wouldn't know if it was to do with the water or not. But I do know that when I drank that water in the right way with some random gnome-like looking guy that popped out with a bushy beard and a woolly hat on. I mean, have you seen the flumps?
Yeah.
He looked like a flump. A cross between a flump and a gnome. And he sat and he just delivered the entire story of what I have to do, you know. And then he was gone, left me in a bunch of daffodils. I was sitting in a bunch of daffodils when he, you know, it was just daffodils everywhere. I was plonked myself in the middle of the daffodils. And then along comes this, you know, flump.
So it's kind of like around this time of year as well then?
Yes, it was March. And so there's daffodils everywhere. And there was pink rays of light. And I just felt like if I sat in the pink beam of light from the sun, it was pink, in the yellow daffodils, I'll feel nice. And sure enough, just being in the moment, you know, this guy comes along and he's got the exact answer to my question that I haven't voiced out. What do you do with this water exactly? How do you do it? And there he is, and he points to the place and then tells me what to do, and boom, he's gone. So the next job I have to do is try it. And so I try it. And I'm thinking, well, nothing happened. 2 months later, when the moon was full and everything was just about right, the sun was approaching its zenith, and it was like, boom, I haven't been the same since. I really haven't been the same since. But immediately after, it was like I was vibrating, I was stuck in a straight, like my spine was very, very locked into a straight line. You know that Paula Coelho's book called Aleph? Okay, it was like that. I was the Aleph. I was in it. I was in that zone, and everything was coming through and going down. And I was like, not just mentally awakened or in a curiosity sense awakened or awoken to a truth. I was in a physical awaken. Like I suddenly
I've had that sitting on a druid stone in Ireland. There's a druid's chair in Killiney, right up above where Bono lives, funny enough. And what's the other girl who does the lovely Celtic music?
Enya
And Bono live right beside each other, pretty much next door. Well, not next door, but very close. Druid's chair is right underneath where they live, or right up. Actually, it's over from where they live. And I've had that, like sitting on this chair, it's like your arse gets plugged in. It's like plugged into the earth, and at the same time, you can touch the heavens. A most extraordinary feeling.
You feel elongated, and then energy flows through down your spine and your nervous system, and then everything's changed after that.
But you can only go into this place if you ask the fairies. You know, this is suburban Dublin. You know, and people pass by it all the time. If you don't know what it is, and if you don't ask to go in, and if you don't do ceremony getting in there, nothing happens. You know, but listen, Danny, what about March? You have this feeling. It was March. You were in
March.
Dallas,
First couple of weeks of March that we need to be there. Yep.
Right.
They're just packing and cleaning and just saying, well, we'll just let it. Just got to feed that out to the universe, and it's just gotta happen. So,
Danny, actually, I think some of what you said needs to be in your GoFundMe thing. About it's your quest. You know, the reason that you're going, you're not just up in sticks because you feel like it. You know, you're up in sticks for a reason.
Yeah.
And I do think it would benefit people to know that.
I tried to post. Can you check that my money's gone in, because I put some money into the GoFundMe.
You weren't supposed to.
Yeah, but you left that £30 in my
car.
So the
put that in your gas
£30,
tank.
and then I put some more in on top of that. So I'm
not going to open it now because I don't want to crash my computer. But I will definitely. I will.
I think it's come up as $46.
Okay.
Why would it be dollars?
Because it's the account. It's going into my Canadian bank account.
Right. Okay, that makes
Canadian.
sense.
That's why.
That makes sense. Yeah, and if it hasn't gone in, then I'll just do it again. But I couldn't find where it said that it'd gone in, and I was like, oh, this is why I don't do technology.
This is why I don't play this game. Yeah.
If it hasn't, I'll try again. So just check for me.
I will. Thank you, love. I will absolutely. Once we're finished.
I'm gonna have to go.
Yep. So do I. I've got to go figure out what the hell I'm going to feed those things. You see them? An hour early. 55 minutes before your time. It's 55 minutes before your time. It is not your time.
Well, listen, Amina, thank you so much for all of that information.
Yeah, it was brilliant.
It was
Loved
really
it.
amazing to hear everything you had to say.
Thank you.
And Gail,
Yeah?
you'll be heading to the Brideswell.
Sunday. There we go. Well, and I took your 3 pieces of the video that you went back to the Cheddar Gorge, and I've put that together. So I will put that at the end of this. I will put that little video piece there so that the people who've seen the first piece of me falling over sideways can then have the secondary piece too to take a look at.
Yeah, I didn't stay that long because that sickness kicked in, and I just knew how bad it was going to get. So I just thought, no, I got shit to do. I can't, I just can't do it today.
I don't have the time to be woozy.
There's supposed to be another Avalon in this county that I live in, Wexford.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
an
should
island.
be in pairs. Something like this is always in pairs. Because we have through Mount Orpheus as well.
Kind of coincidental that I'm living in the county that it's supposed to be in. So
And Gail's living over there where the other Avalon is.
Yeah, funny, isn't it?
That is, I think that's the reason why you three went together, because there's when three people unite, there's multiple layers of energy there, and you're all bringing in one thread from a different place, and I think that's why you were noticed as well.
And a lot of lineages between the whole lot of us, you know. Yeah. Interesting stuff. So I'll continue with my edutainment.
You continue with your edutainment. I'm going to go deal with these dogs who literally, they're like crawling around me on both sides of me right now. I'm go tell them that it's not their time. I'll probably feed them.
Okay.
I love you guys. I will talk to you later.
Speak to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Hello, unfuckers. Right. I'm doing this so you can see how close to Cheddar I'm living. I've got some errands to do, but I thought I'd go to the gorge straight away. And I thought I'd drive you there and see what you guys pick up. So I'm just going to fix you somewhere. I'll just pause it a minute. I can't wait to start. God, it started. Right, so this is the bottom of the gorge. This is the small village. And in the summertime it's heaving. It's so busy. This time of year it's nice and quiet, apart from weekends. It gets busy again. There's a lot of energy just around here. I feel this is the start of the flow. Okay, so this is the first bend into the actual gorge. Try and park in exactly the same spot as we were parked before. Maybe this one. The car's not happy. At least we can go downhill if we conk out. So before I get out of the car, I'll just show you. There's a mountain goat up there. And here we go. Oh, wow, yes. It's pretty much as intense as what it was last time. I'm parked over, I think we were parked in this this one here. I'm so used to this place and I don't get vertigo, I just get awestruck when I drive through, and coming out and standing in just in this spot, everything just seems multi-layered and it's like standing in a whirlpool. Well, see what you guys get from this little video. Yes, this sicky feeling to the stomach. Has come on.